Have you ever finished a piece of media, an anime, a game, a novel, and rather than the plot, it's a character that stuck with you? Maybe you have a variety of reasons. There's something about the character that reminds you of yourself, or makes you feel inspired, or they perform their role in the narrative with mastery. My favorite question after a friend has consumed a piece of media I have isn't who's your favorite character, but instead, why is your favorite character your, favorite character? The question didn't work by itself. A fictional character on paper is nothing more than an imaginary person created by a real person. Sure, they have a design, personality traits, mannerisms, but a lot of the time, they don't have a tangible voice or hell, in the case of novels, a way to actually see them. They are less of a person and more the idea of a person, the suggestion of a person, and it's the work of you as the audience to interpret and convert that suggestion into something that feels a little more real. This is a very logical way to view fictional characters, and to consider it deeper than that, it would feel, well, in lack of a better term, chronically online, right? Because at the end of the day, these are just fake people made by real people. What if I told you that isn't the most logical interpretation? What if I told you a study was done by the psychology departments of both Ohio State University and the University of Oregon that shows that your experiences with a suggested person run deeper than you originally may have thought? In this study, Becoming the King of the North, identification of fictional characters is associated with greater self-other neural overlap, participants did trait evaluations on themselves, friends or acquaintances, and finally the cast of Game of Thrones during the airing of the 7th season, all while undergoing what was functionally an MRI to see what parts of their brain had activity when discussing fictional characters in comparison to real people. What they found was that the ventral portion of the prefrontal cortex had the most notable amount of activity when covering all three of the topics. The part of the brain that, as far as the test was concerned, handles the perception of self and people you know. On a neurological level, your brain can consider fictional characters not only something akin to a friend, but also something akin to being a part of yourself. Your brain processing fictional characters as people makes sense, especially when you consider how much a well-told story can immerse you, or how beautiful animation can take the mental guesswork of how a character moves. Even video games are getting so detailed that fake pores are added to the people that walk the streets of Night City in Cyberpunk. Naturally, the harder to sell idea is that a character can hold the place of a piece of your identity. And if you're in that camp that finds that hard to believe, do me a favor, stop for a second, and consider a character that you main in a video game. Your main, the character you choose to play as the most, typically in a multiplayer game, is how you interact with your friends and anything else that goes on in the virtual world that the game takes place in. Whether you choose this character due to their gameplay mechanics, character design, personality, or a mixture of all of the above, them being on screen represents who you are. In Marvel Rivals, a game that I am surprised to find myself playing as often as I do, I almost exclusively play as a support character, Luna Snow. She's fairly easy to play using primarily hit-scan projectiles, which helps as I don't normally play a lot of competitive games. Her design is appealing as I tend to gravitate to asymmetrical designs, and in a cast of superheroes, soldiers, and mutants, her being a K-pop performer is just fun. Luna Snow being how I interact with the world of Marvel Rivals has become so synonymous with me as a person that when my friends ask me to play with them, they reference her voice line that she says during her ultimate ability.
I am ready to put on a show!
And just because you main a character, that doesn't mean you don't play as anyone else in the roster. I mean, it does for me. But game developers know that there is a correlation with identity with the characters that you main, which is how a lot of games are able to make money. Rather than selling access to a character, you get to customize them. You can buy different outfits that make your Luna Snow different from everyone else's. You can get in-game banners, that way even if you aren't playing Luna Snow, she's there representing who you are. This can expand beyond friend groups and impact the community that forms around the game. If you're aware of the Pro Smash scene even a little bit, this Jigglypuff skin pretty much belongs to the individual player of Hungrybox, since this is how he appears when interacting with the series. But even without the perception of others, your main can still hold value. Hell, your interest in a character can be the reason you play the game in the first place. Street Fighter 6 always looked like a solid fighting game, a genre I have a history of giving a firm try with, but it wasn't until I saw Jerry Han that I actively wanted to give a game that I have a lot of love for now a fair shake. Her high-speed rushdown gameplay, the kick-based fighting style, and punk aesthetic all coalesced into a character that just seemed really cool. I ended up getting the game, learned to play her a little bit, and I became a fan of a series that never really clicked with me before, even liking and playing games without her in it. And Reina from Tekken 8 showcases a reason for me to want to play that game. Ignore any implications that these characters are similar. I just like punk character designs with strong personalities, okay? Anyway, if you have a punk character design and a strong personality, my DMs are open on Blue Sky. But based on how important a game is to you, your main or the character that got you into a series are a part of who you are in some degree. How you actively chose to be represented. While a main does, at least in many cases, take root as a part of your identity to whatever degree of importance you have in that game, the way you interact with media isn't what the study meant when it said that consideration for a fictional character is similar to how you consider yourself. The self-reflection begins when you consider how a piece of media interacts with you. Relating to a fictional character isn't some unspoken thing that accidentally happens when an author adds a little too much quirkiness or sadness to a character. A lot of them are designed to be connected with on the grounds of immersing you into the experience. A lot of visual novels such as dating simulators will give you a mostly plain canvas to project yourself onto, since the focus of that game is getting to know other characters and how they interact with you. The Persona series famously has silent protagonists that have suggested personality traits but can be as varying as you would like to play them, especially when it comes to choosing your own dialogue and answers. And this isn't exclusive to interactive mediums, as a lot of shows or other stories will try to give you only as much information as you need to make a character you can put yourself into the role of. Sakakibara is the protagonist of the horror story Another, and one of his more defining traits is an enjoyment of horror novels. So the fact that Another is in itself a horror novel means if you're reading it, well, there's a little bit more of a connection you can make to him while he witnesses a curse that kills his classroom one by one. This method of character creation can be seen as inherently shallow, but it truly is effective. If a story wants to immerse you, it doesn't have to give you a slot to fill, but it helps. That said, it's when a character was made first, maybe with the right amount of quirkiness and sadness, that relating to them truly makes you self-reflect. Bocchi the Rock, at the peak of its relevance, received accolades on the grounds of how relatable the anime and by extension Hitori Goto was. I am going to make a crazy assumption and guess that everyone who is saying that they relate to her aren't calling themselves a pink-haired anime girl who's in high school and an indie rock band. Hitori Goto is relatable because her moments of extreme social anxiety, even as hyperbolic as they are, can hit a little close to home. It's nice to see an aspect of yourself in a character because it makes you feel a little bit less alone. It's validating because it makes you feel seen, and maybe popularity with that character can encourage a little bit of self-confidence. To give a personal example of how impactful this can be, when I was 13, the age that you could use any excuse to have more confidence, I still am short. And because of that easy to notice difference, it felt like a lot of situations regarding other people, my height took place of my identity. It felt like others looked metaphorically and literally down at me. But then, I watched Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, a show about many things such as the value of family, acknowledging other cultures, and it's complete with all the badass fight scenes and political intrigue that you could ever want in anime. But most important to me, it was a story about a shorter than average protagonist being cool and capable. The protagonist, Edward Elric, was like my idol when I went through my Full Metal Alchemist phase, and it made me begin to like a part of myself that I used to not. My height wasn't a flaw, it just made me more like the main character of a show I loved. The idea I was beating around the bush with that story is the idea of representation, and it can be a lot more important than a middle school insecurity. The lens of reality that media portrays is tragically narrow, and so many ways of life, cultures, experiences get left out. There are many stories of people who barely got to see actors who looked like them on TV, people who rarely ever saw their culture represented, or people who didn't know how vast their world could be just because of who they loved. Representation makes you feel not so alone, that someone has to understand to some degree what you experience on a daily basis. This hits home even more when you see characters who have shared similar internal wounds. Even beyond identity, seeing a character who has suffered trauma you connect with and seeing their healing journey can make yours feel a little more tangible. However, it's not just hulking entertainment empires that can create this feeling of validation. People can make their own media to share how they feel or their experiences, and this has led to one of the most popular fictional characters in the modern world. Tell me, what do you know about Hatsune Miku? No, I am not at all joking. To give an example of just how big she is, the website Vocaloid Rankings, which tracks how popular any given character under the Vocaloid umbrella is, says that across YouTube, Nico Nico and Billy Billy, Hatsune Miku across all of her songs has 9 billion views. This also isn't counting the impact that she has through rhythm games such as the Project Diva series, fan-made playable songs in games such as Osu and Beat Saber, she was in Persona 4 Dancing, and if we're bringing collabs into the equation, she had an entire music pass dedicated to her in Fortnite Festival where she has 2 different skins. But that's just how popular she is, not why she is so popular. Hatsune Miku is a Vocaloid, a voice bank that is used to make music, sort of like an instrument that can sing words. And it's the songs that people make using the Miku voice bank that turn her from the mascot of a product into a character that millions of people can connect with. Since anyone who can access the Vocaloid software can make a song performed by the very own Hatsune Miku, her likeness covers a wide variety of experiences, from lighter stuff such as Rabbit Hole and World Is Mine, the latter being about a spoiled girl who thinks the world revolves around her, and the former, well, I think we can only speculate what this song's about. To heavier songs like the disappearance of Hatsune Miku and Rolling Girl, the first song being about how Hatsune Miku is inevitably going to be erased and is desperately trying to sing as much as she can, absolutely tearing through words, making syllables nearly incomprehensible in an effort to say everything she can before her time is up. Even if unintentional, I think there is a connection to human mortality and the fear of not doing enough before you die in this song. The second song is about the self-destructive tendencies painful experiences can bring. A common interpretation of the song is that it follows a girl who took her own life. These are just 4 songs in the thousands that people can hear and form a connection to Hatsune Miku with and carry as a part of themselves. And being able to see a character everywhere that makes you feel understood as countless people use her to speak their experiences, that is genuinely incredible. But sometimes there's a character that is a part of you, but maybe they aren't like you. Maybe there's a quality they have that sticks with you, that makes you see life and yourself in a different way. Sometimes a character isn't like you, but makes you realize who you want to become. To go back to Hitori Goto, there are a lot of introverts who may get nervous being suddenly approached or horribly misread a situation when eyes are on them. This is one of the more recognizable aspects of the main character of Bocchi the Rock, and was also the way I introduced her earlier in the video. While these qualities are true, Hitori will still get on stage with her bandmates to play the songs they created together. She puts in the hard work to not only perform well, but to put herself in an environment where people are watching her. All while the idea of talking to people is almost overwhelming. This battle she fights against her very own nature, while entertaining, is in no simpler words inspiring. And it is fantastic that the plot of a story as simple as an introverted girl getting out of her comfort zone to go after her dream is so inspirational. So inspirational, in fact, that you can find people who started progressing their own passion for music in these communities dedicated to Bocchi the Rock. A lot of inspiring characters have one of the most admirable traits a person can have, which is perseverance. No matter what you want in life, there's an obstacle to overcome, and sometimes that obstacle may just feel a little too high. What a fictional character can do is have a goal that the accompanying set of obstacles just seems outright insurmountable. In Black Clover, the main character Asta wants to be the Wizard King, the captain of the Magic Knights, a position only gained through sheer magical ability that would grant our main character status in the kingdom he lives in's monarchy. And while that is already quite the challenge, as practically speaking, anyone who wants to gun for the title has a shot at earning it, what makes it conceptually impossible is that Asta literally has no magic in a world and hierarchy that only has room for people who do exactly what our lead character cannot. However, it is through sheer force of determination, and being the only person who can use anti-magic in a world dependent on magic, that Asta is easily one of the strongest characters in the series and probably one of the better applicants for the position. Even though it's obviously fictional, even though the writer's always going to give Asta a solution to climb the ladder a little bit more, it is inspiring to see a character have every reason to give up, face an absolute impossibility, and simply say, "I'm not done yet." The willpower to continue fighting is what cultivates inspiration. It makes your own personal obstacles either look smaller or motivates you to overcome your own brand of impossible. Social anxiety won't stop you from performing on stage when you realize it's not this enormous, out-of-reach thing, especially if someone like Asa can overcome his own ineptitude in a world literally built against him. Keeping that in mind, standing on stage isn't so scary after all. An inspiration like this can come in all shapes and sizes, like not holding on to grudges after watching Thorfinn denounce his violent urges for revenge, vowing that he has no enemies. Maybe you have a comparable motivation, like wanting to try harder after watching the characters in Blue Lock, a series where a cast of soccer players metaphorically cannibalize each other in order to be the best, and you become infected by Yoichi Isagi's toxic determination. It could even be subconscious, like seeing how much of a bad hand Spider-Man gets dealt in every piece of media he's in, but he still uses his resource and power to help the people around him. Having a fictional character who inspires you can shift how you simply see everyday life. Their journey can hit you at your core, and maybe something that you used to consider inconceivable because of your own limitations can actually be started today. Hell, I'm sure despite people more than likely not being able to turn Super Saiyan, Dragon Ball has filled gyms with giving people motivation to start a fitness journey. And if the search results that come up under Dragon Ball Z workout are any indication, that isn't a small number. Being able to look at who you are, who you want to be, or what you want to do while just watching a show, playing a game, reading a book, it can very well change your life. The road feels so much less daunting because even if you aren't trying to be the king of all magic users without the ability to use magic, seeing a character that gets nervous like you, makes you want to be kind, or makes you want to work harder, it's just so cool. It makes you feel a little bit more understood by the world. But that's not the only power a fictional character can have on you. They not only make you feel understood and seen, but also make you understand the world around you. Your brain can process fictional characters like they're yourself, but the other half of that coin is that they file under the same category as friends or family. To explain what this is leading to, let me first tell you what a parasocial relationship is. I started reading Sakamoto Days last year, and I like it quite a bit. Published in Weekly Shonen Jump following a former assassin turned convenience store owner, which if you've ever worked customer service you know that tends to be the other way around, the story has such incredible action set pieces where different people in a secret assassination industry tear through their environments trying to take each other down. Well, that is a fantastic reason to stick around. I read every week because of my favorite character, Akira Akao. While fully capable in her own right to perform right alongside these natural disaster-turned-killing machines, she is more so an absolute anxiety-filled mess of a person that one more inconvenience or surprise may very well just turn her into a puddle. I don't really relate to her as I can't stow a parachute while falling from an exploding plane, and I can't say she's particularly inspiring as I'm more than capable of having my own panic attacks. It was a personal experience that created a bond with Akira. I want her to be plot relevant, I want things to go well for her arc, I care about this fictional character, these lines on a paper that are to be interpreted as a person because, well, she reminds me of my D&D character. Mavis, like Akira, can fight to the death a hell of a lot better than she can present a school project to her class, which makes for really interesting and engaging encounters. I mean, I enjoy it so much that she ended up becoming my YouTube mascot. Now, when I see Akira, I see Mavis and all the fun I had with her, and vice versa. A real experience and a personal preference made me care about a character in a way that's pretty similar to finding out someone has the same hobby as you. To address the elephant in the room, there are some really awful connotations of the term as it is typically used alongside celebrities and internet personalities who don't want everyone that enjoys what they do to consider them a friend. But the phenomenon itself is not inherently bad, especially when placed in strictly fictional media. You aren't weird for forming some form of friendship with any of the characters on screen, you're acting exactly how the author wanted you to. Anytime you feel happy for a character's victory, sad for them when they experience heartbreak, or dread a tragedy that you know is coming, that is some form of bond at work. If there wasn't an attachment, you wouldn't feel real emotions when seeing their story unfold. And this experience isn't limited to only people who take anime or novels too seriously. Chances are a video game has made you feel this exact way too. A favorite video game character doesn't just become a part of your identity the same way a main or virtual mascot does. The nature of video games being interactive mediums means that any form of bond can run much deeper due to the level of interactivity that goes into the experience. Persona is a game series with over 25 million lifetime copies sold and has Metacritic scores that would place it in high honors if we were treating these like grades. The latest 3 installments are half about exploring some other supernatural world, whether that be through a TV, a phone app that manifests corrupt desires, or our world distorting itself during a secret 25th hour. The other half is how you manage your social life with a limited amount of in-game time slots. While there are gameplay benefits, at least in the 5th game, the main reason you pick social links to progress is almost purely based on your personal preference. If you don't go into the other world, you get 2 time slots a day to either use to make yourself more socially desirable or to spend time with people your character is forming a bond with. So it's up to you whose story you as a protagonist see resolved. Want to see what really happens when that guy actually asked out his teacher? Want to see the first person who showed you kindness to get back on his track team? The Persona series puts you in a blank canvas with suggested characteristics not only to make you more immersed and connected to the avatar you'll be piloting, but also because the character-based experience comes from bonding with these people. It's all up to you and what you yourself want to do, as without your direct choices, you don't get to see the conclusion of a character's arc. And because of those choices, your playthrough becomes a little more unique each time you play. When you choose to spend your time with one character, you are essentially losing out any other person in the cast. You are picking what bonds you are nurturing and what relationships you are locking away. Going even further, romance mechanics in games are a more elevated version of this. Romancing a character provides very little gameplay benefits no matter who you romance in the grand majority of games. It is not a choice that will make your game any easier or harder, but what it will do is make your journey as your character all the more personal to you. We see this in games like Baldur's Gate 3. No matter the character, the imagined backstory of a custom avatar, or the pre-written and established plot of a Dark Urge, they all start the same. And despite the other choices left in my wake, the one that said the most about me and my character was the time spent bonding with one of the party members, Shadowheart. I do not know what any other companion's ending looks like, but my journey through this game concluded with the character I myself chose to end it with. And while for both Baldur's Gate 3 and Persona, these are just additional systems that are meant to make you more immersed and give you a break from the primary offerings of the game, otome games and other dating simulators are all about getting to know characters as a central mechanic. While Persona, you can really min-max your time like a little freak and see everything, even at a cost. Visual novels have entire storylines called routes that tell different narratives based on who you want to get to know or romance. The game is literally asking you which stories you want to see and what content you are deciding to go without. This assumes that visual novel fans don't play every route to see every story, and also assumes visual novels don't make stories that require a playthrough of every route to know the full picture. Please do not make this assumption. This is a fool's assumption. Having this one-sided dynamic with a character can be fantastic, as it truly lets the story hook into your soul and gives you something to carry with you. A care, no matter the depth, exists. Of course, it doesn't have to say something deep about you on a psychological or neurological level every time you have a favorite character. One of my favorite characters is Shogo Makishima from Psycho-Pass. Someone whose entire thing is not feeling bad about killing in a world that claims it can detect if you are willing to commit a crime and then punishes you as if you did. I like him for his on-screen charisma and the way he turns the story into his own narrative of rebellion, fighting against a corrupt system with his own brand of corruption. He's far from being like me, and I also probably wouldn't want to hang out with him either because he's kind of literally evil. Satoru Gojo from Jujutsu Kaisen isn't evil, but he's also one of my favorite characters for reasons that aren't that deep and personal. Sometimes you can like a character just because they're cool. It doesn't have to be that deep, but it's beautiful that it can be. Fictional characters are a powerful vehicle that can make you understand yourself and others better, make you feel less lonely, or deliver a message. When I started researching this idea for a video, I thought it was going to be a little romp where you can have a different favorite character for different reasons. Maybe you relate to one, you think one is cool, maybe you're traditionally attracted to one. But the more I researched, the more I talked to my friends, the more I explored this topic, which somehow led me to papers on neurological studies and essays about the importance of the world not treating people like an oddity, I think I have a grasp on just how powerful the answer to the question I asked at the start is. There is such a beautiful light to the fact that simple words on a page, drawings on a screen, a 3D model puppeteered to move like a person, or an actor dressed up to look a little less real can have such a profound effect on us. So much so that our brain tells us that we are either experiencing the actions of another person or seeing a reflection of ourselves. I may not know why your favorite character is your favorite character, but now I know why mine is.